G'day, SEACON. Pleasure to be with you today. I'm David Symons. I've worked in tech companies, and I say tech companies, and I'll explain why I use air quotes in a minute, and software engineering for well over a decade. From some of the world's busiest online gambling websites, to the Expedia Group, which is online travel, Toyota Motors, and now CTO as a service at eSynergy Solutions. But first, let me set the scene. I'm going to provide you context and a story around why software is key to your business, the paradigm shift in all businesses, especially in 2020, and what you can do about it and why it's never been easier to deliver software at scale in 2020. One thing is abundantly clear to me. Stick with me. British Airways is no longer an airline, but a software company that just so happens to own a fleet of aircraft. That may sound asinine, but let me explain. This is why I said tech companies in air quotes, because with the generational shift of digital natives alive today, which is a person who's grown up in a digital age since birth and not an immigrant to such technology, is that if you're not adapting to software and embedding it into your business, you may soon become very irrelevant. You could even argue that all modern day companies are or will soon be tech companies, whether they know it or not. It may just be a matter of time. Who thought the best food delivery would be via an application, not a kitchen? Getting software delivery wrong is costly, but getting it right is not expensive either. Let's get into it. Software is eating the world. Mark Andreessen, for those who don't know, is the man behind co-founding Netscape and his Silicon Valley-based venture capital firm, Andreessen Horowitz. Andreessen and Horowitz have led investments in Facebook, Foursquare, GitHub, Pinterest, Twitter, and Skype, to humbly name a few. Back in 2011, Mark wrote a now famously titled article, "Why is Software Eating the World?" Remember, this is from 2011, but here's a quote from the article. More and more businesses and industries are being run on software and delivered as online services, from movies to agriculture to national defense. We know this is true. A global shift in our ways of working has highlighted this as a biblical, undeniable truth, especially in 2020. And if companies were not delivering online services, even as late as 2019, someone else will be now. The great success stories of 2020 will be companies who have embraced the ever-changing digital landscape and created solutions via software, better servicing their customers. In some cases, this new form of business or revenue stream is likely to exceed their legacy business. We have seen that as part of 2020, and hopefully this is one of many, many success and good stories that come out of this year. So, why is British Airways an airline? Great question. When I was just researching this subject, there have actually been several BA IT glitches. And side note, in my entire career, I've never experienced a so-called IT glitch. Never. No matter what you want to call it, it's software. Software, using the 2017 British Airways IT glitch example, grounded 672 flights worldwide and cost the company roughly £58 million, with tens of thousands of passengers unable to travel. It was in this moment which cemented my already firm belief British Airways was no longer an airline, but a software company. Picture this. You have passengers at the airport checked in. They have their baggage ready to go. They're in a lounge ready to board. Some are already boarded, fast in their seats with their seatbelt fastened, with pilots in the cockpit, doing their preliminary checks in a fully fueled aircraft ready to fly on the runway. But they could not take off. And why? Because of software, the quality of their software. And this was the moment that British Airways was no longer an airline, but a software company that just so happened to own a fleet of aircraft. And look, I get it, it's a nuanced point. Obviously, airlines need more than just software to fly, but the company was literally held ransom by the quality of their software. They had everything required physically to service and deliver their passengers, yet software was the bottleneck. Their business was dependent on the success and quality and scale of their software delivery. Now we have the context for a paradigm shift of why software is key to the success of any modern day business. Let's look at other reasons why delivering software of quality and scale matters. Stripe, a $35 billion fintech who have been pioneers and exemplified how software can eat the world, recently released a report regarding the developer coefficient, a $300 billion business opportunity. Now, if I look at the slide here, you'll see that tech poses the greatest competitive threat to businesses. And interesting that retail, manufacturing, telco, companies you might not traditionally think that are vulnerable, think that tech is their greatest threat. And I think this is true across all industry. It's only a matter of time before all offline markets become digital. We're seeing it day by day. And I think this is, the threat's just going to get larger and larger and more threatening by the day. From this report, there's a couple of my favorite highlights. Access to developers is a bigger threat to success than access to capital. I'm going to repeat that. access to developers is a bigger threat to the success of your business than access to capital. C-level executives overwhelmingly report developers help their companies in critical ways. The best developers build new products, services, and entire businesses. Collectively, developers have the ability to raise global GDP by $3 trillion over the next 10 years. Remember, this report was before COVID. I think that number would easily have broken 4 trillion by now. They found that businesses need to better leverage their existing software engineering talent if they want to move faster and build new products. And developers working on the right things can accelerate a company's move into new markets and help differentiate themselves at a disproportionate rate. This underscores the most important point about developers as force multipliers. It's not how many devs you have in your company. It's about how they're being leveraged. And another quick quote from our friend Mark Andreessen. Cycle time compression may be the most underestimated force in determining winners and losers in tech. In other words, your ability to release quality software and features at speed and scale is as key and vital to your business than the capital used to start the business in the first place. That could be mind-blowingly difficult to comprehend sometimes, because it is saying that the talent that you get from developers is worth more value to your business than the money to start it and build it. Just let that sink in. Developers over capital. Now that we understand the impact low quality software can have on a business, we also know the tremendous cost software can have, both positively and negatively, on businesses and GDP. We know that some of the biggest companies on the planet have succeeded due to their native understanding of software delivery and cycle time compression. This is also known as releasing or shipping of software. But what is next? How do you ensure quality software is delivered? How do you do it? Where do you start? What are the considerations you need to think of? Am I leveraging the best out of my existing talent and teams? Let's run through some of the fundamental methodologies that you can apply and adapt, and what you need to understand, and why this helps accelerate you, and why I firmly believe it's never been easier to deliver quality software at scale in 2020. First, we have GitOps. From the company Weaveworks, GitOps, coined by Weaveworks founder Alexis Richardson, which has mushroomed as a terminology throughout the industry, is a way to do Kubernetes cluster management and application delivery. It works by using Git as a single source of truth for declarative infrastructure and applications. With GitOps, the use of software agents can alert any divergence between Git, what's running in a cluster, and if there's a difference, there'll be Kubernetes reconcilers which automatically update or roll back the cluster depending on the case. With Git at the center of your delivery pipelines, developers use familiar tools to make pull requests to accelerate and simplify both application deployments and operational tasks to Kubernetes. Another way to think about GitOps for use cases outside of Kubernetes is a path towards a developer experience for managing applications where end-to-end CI/CD pipelines and Git workflows are applied to both operations and development. Another great example of GitOps is when it's applied to infrastructure as code, and we all know the benefits that can come from immutable infrastructure and using tools like Terraform, HashiCorp Terraform, to accelerate our GitOps workflow in infrastructure as code, otherwise known as IAC. DevOps, which is another one. DevOps has been called many things over the years, so I'm not going to throw fuel on that old fire. There'll be a link in one of the slides that you can take a look at. Atlassian does a great breakdown on what DevOps means and the philosophies behind it. But for me, I fundamentally believe it's individuals and teams working together, championing empathy, adopting and implementing the greatest of software engineering methodologies and tooling, and helping businesses ship quality software and products at speed and scale. Simply put, it's Kaizen. Kaizen means continuous improvement for the bloodline of your business, delivering products and features to your customers in the highest possible quality, on time, every time. CloudOps is a little lesser known terminology, and from what I've seen, it's a natural evolution of IT operations, also known as ops teams, who've embraced the journey into the cloud, but sometimes they're the ones spearheading a cloud adoption proof of concept, or they've transitioned their roles and responsibilities to cover not only on-prem or data center needs, but also the cloud. They've spearheaded that, or they've been part of the journey, or they've been brought in to help digitally transform a business into the cloud. CloudOps is short for cloud operations. CloudOps is the formalization of best practices and procedures, and that allows cloud-based applications, platforms, and the data that lives there to function well over a long duration of time. Essentially, CloudOps is a culmination of DevOps and traditional IT operations applied to a cloud-based architecture. Now that we've had an overview of modern software engineering and methodologies, let's look at the developer lifecycle. Left to right, we have code, test, build, deploy, release, operate, measure. When we think of this simplified developer lifecycle from left to right, let's think of them as Lego bricks that we put together. On their own, you can't make much with them. However, when you combine them with other pieces, you really start to build something of its own. And by using this analogy, we can start to picture how these Lego bricks between various methodologies and patterns start to come to life in this seamless, fully integrated end-to-end pipeline, which helps accelerate your software delivery and, again, helping you ensure that it is of high quality, speed, and scale. If we drill down into some of these pieces as well, into these Lego bricks, we would have code in our GitHub or GitLab. We test in our CI, continuous integration, which could again be in GitHub or GitLab or some other CI tool like Circle CI. We build an artifact. This can be a compilation or a binary of our source code, an executable or a Docker container, for instance. And we deploy this as a release, which is a versioned artifact via some form of continuous delivery tool, CD tool, to operate on somewhere like Kubernetes, serverless, or EC2, or some form of virtual machine, or a form of compute where we can execute our binary. And finally, measure the success of our delivery lifecycle in the form of observation, monitoring, and metrics. And as you can see here on the slide, we've got some GitHub, we've got Terraform, there's Gradle for build, we have Prometheus and Grafana and Datadog for measure. There's a whole list of applications here. If I were to put a logo for each, it would be a very extensive list, but there's just some household name examples there. And that's really it. Like this is a developer lifecycle simplified left to right. Individuals, teams, consultancies, businesses, a lot of people are going to try and tell you it's complicated, it's difficult. It's really not. It's super simple. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. I know consultancies out there who will charge you the world and tell you it's the size of an ocean to complete. Simply not true. The Stoics have a saying, if it's not simple, it's BS. If you got the goods, you don't need to dress it up or make it a hard sell. Consultancy should be paying attention to this. You lay it out, let people take it or leave it, because it's not that complicated. We're in 2020, this isn't new. These are commodity solutions. The art is really being able to take the patterns and methodologies that we talked about and orchestrating them together like a conductor. You take code, you make it into something that can run somewhere, you run it, you make sure you run it well by measuring what you manage, you rinse and repeat and get really, really, really good at doing this over and over and over again. And that's where Kaizen comes in, continuous improvement. When you put it all together, we're really just building our technology stack, brick by brick, Lego piece by Lego piece. And if you've worked around tech before, the phrase tech stack or technology stack is very common. There's even SaaS companies like StackShare that easily map out which open source and SaaS solutions are being used within a company. And you can go to StackShare and see what stack a company like Uber, for example, are using. Go to Google, type in StackShare, tons of companies on there, go check it out. Before this next slide, I know what you might be thinking, just what the world doesn't need is another ops buzzword. However, when I think about our stack and the connectivity and modularity of it all, we're really just talking about stack operations, something like this. For me, and without being over prescriptive, it's just a way to identify and bunch and consolidate all these things together. Our methodologies, our patterns, our tooling, our life cycles, our workflows, they're all combined together in a single stack, each all needing operation between the two and being wired up and being connected and operational support, etc. Let me give you a couple examples. I can configure GitOps to connect to a Git repo, which performs actions based on commitments to said Git repo. In parallel, I'm writing up some Terraform to talk to my cloud provider like AWS, and that will be spinning up some infrastructure for me. I then integrate my cloud service provider like AWS again with my CI/CD tooling so it can talk to it, ensuring that we have a seamless integration between the two, and also it needs to be done safely and securely. Once my CI/CD is integrated, we'll be able to operate and talk to various ends like Kubernetes, serverless, EC2, S3. And finally, I want my monitoring like Datadog, which does have native cloud support. It can plug into AWS and other cloud providers. I want it to fully integrate down the stack. So I have this full end-to-end view that I can measure of my developer and delivery lifecycle. When you put all this together, we're really just operating our stack, hence stack ops. The successful engineers and companies will be those who can master this art of stack operations and conducting them together seamlessly, at quality, safely, and securely. Now, I know some of these examples I've gone through is extremely high level. We haven't gone down a technical deep dive. However, if you'd like to know more about anything I presented today, concepts, questions, please reach out to me. My details are in slides. And if your business would like to accelerate your software delivery and quality, please get in touch with either myself or eSynergy today. I'm really grateful for you to listening. Happy to help. So please reach out, and thank you for listening.